You are about to witness history in the making. In quest of a better life.
Hello, listener. I'm Haydn. How are you today? Good. I'm glad you're well. Well, you're asking why you're here? I've got to tell you, your life on Earth has ended, and you are now in a next phase of your existence in the universe. How did you die, you say? Alright, so you were in a grocery parking lot. You dropped a bottle of something called Lonely Nerd Margarita Mix for one, and then you bent down to pick it up. A column of shopping carts that were being returned to the shopping cart collection area rolled out of control and ploughed right into you. No, that wasn't how you actually died. I'm afraid to say you were able to grab onto the front of the column of shopping carts, but it swept you right out into the street and you were killed by a mobile billboard on the back that was advertising the Pop Culture Gamers podcast. Funnily enough though, the first person to come to your aid just before you died was an ex-partner who you completely despised. So joining me in the waiting room in the afterlife is Steve, my joint host. Hello, Steve.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Am I alive?
Well, that's the ultimate question really, isn't it? But of course, we're already having a bit of a joke because today we're going to talk to you about a great show which both Steve and I have been watching, which is called The Good Place, which is presently on Netflix and has just ended its second season with another season to come in September. So, that's the intro to the show. This is going to be completely spoilerific. If you have not watched the show and you are in any way interested in knowing about the show, what happens in the show, or whatever, stop listening now, go and watch all 24 episodes and then come back, because we are going to be going well into spoiler territory for this, but it's just going to be us talking about the show that we've been watching, which is a terrific comedy. Okay? So, Steve, what's your thoughts on the show?
Well, sometimes you get a show that grabs you and you just want to keep watching them.
Yeah.
And this certainly did it. I didn't expect it to do that, to be honest. And even I thought I'll watch it with the missus.
Yeah.
And she's absolutely loved the show. I didn't, which we'll talk about later, I didn't foresee how the show was going to go.
No.
I expected it from the first episode and how that finished, that was going to be the main take on the show throughout the two seasons.
Yes.
And not realising that when we get to season 2 or the end of season 1, how they flip the show into something completely different.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about a bit later.
Yeah.
We don't spoil that straight away, do we?
No, we don't. But no, I mean, it was actually me who found this show initially, and I told you about it, and I think that you were a bit, yeah.
Yeah,
whatever.
you badgered me. I thought, well, I need something to watch, so I took your advice for once.
And it just goes to prove you should listen to me a little bit more often.
No, because there's some things I won't watch, but you got this one right, I must admit. And to get my missus involved in another TV show like this, because we were watching sometimes back to back for a few, I think I caned this in a few days. This the TV show, so
yeah. Well, the episodes each are only about 22 minutes, apart from the pilot episode, of course, which is significantly longer. It's about an hour.
Yeah, wasn't the mid-season episode from season 1 to season 2, wasn't it an hour as well, I think?
Yeah, I think it was. But basically, the synopsis of the show is it is about the afterlife, and it is about the good place. So in terms of when you die, you go to either the bad place or the good place. and every good place has an architect, and they design the good place for you so that it's your sort of perfect place to be.
It's your paradise, isn't it?
Supposedly, yeah.
Well, we can say that, in brackets, if you know what I mean.
Your supposed paradise. So, in terms of this show, the architect is Ted Danson, as in, from, is he on CSI, isn't he? Or on Cheers, most people know from 3 Men and a Little Baby, that sort of thing.
I think really Cheers is what gave him his career.
It was.
And later on we will see him do his bar work later.
Yes, there's a terrific nod in the final episode of the last season to Cheers, a real Easter egg for people.
Didn't he see him at home though?
He did, completely. Much more so than actually as Michael, to be honest.
Because I just sit there and I looked at him and I said, what do you mean? I said, don't you get it? And obviously, I'm not saying that women aren't thick, but they sometimes don't see it when it's smacked in their face, if you know what I mean. But
yeah, it was so obvious that it was unobvious.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But so when you die, you're sent to the good place or the bad place. If you're sent to the bad place, you get your eyeballs pulled out on a daily basis, turned inside out from the butthole outwards and all of this sort of thing. These are descriptions in the show, by the way.
Not for real.
Not for real. So, but these guys are in the good place, the main cast. And there are 4 cast. There is Eleanor, there is Tahani, there is Chidi, and there is Jason. But he's not actually known as Jason for the first few episodes. And we'll come on to that very shortly. So, every area has an architect who designed the perfect place. And within this perfect place, there is also your soulmate, who you are paired with. So Eleanor, who is the main character in the story, she is teamed up with Chidi, who is like her soulmate. And according to Michael, Eleanor Shellstraw, who is played by Kristen Bell, was like a fantastic human rights activist.
Or not.
Or in reality, not, because there's been a mistake made. And then Chidi Anganoni, who is her soulmate, is actually a professor of moral ethics. And they befriend another couple in the good place. There is Tahani Al-Jamil, who is a black British woman who is tremendously posh and name drops right throughout the whole of the show. It's like she'll be talking and she said, Eleanor on one episode says, "You sound like that woman from so-and-so." Says, "Oh yes, well she's my godmother." Yeah, sort of thing. So it's name dropping with her.
She must have should have made a fortune if she was getting paid to do this.
Well, ever sponsored for every name drop she did. In a matter of fact, someone created a video from the first 2 seasons of just the name drops of what she did, and it was 4 minutes long.
Yeah, and I think this is her first gig as an actress, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
And how classy is she? She's nailed her part so well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, they all did. To be honest, after getting to the end of season 2.
Yes. Looking
at all these actors and how they nailed their characters, and they just all work well together. It's really a match made in heaven. No pun intended there, mind you.
Yes, exactly. Now, Tahani is partnered with someone called Jason Mendoza, although I did say that he's not known as Jason initially. He's actually known as Gianu. And Gianu is a Tibetan monk who's taken a vow of silence. Or not, as the case may be, because he's actually somebody from Florida who used to do drug dealing. I was a field DJ. I was also in a dance crew. So, as you can see, this is where some of the comedy starts to come in.
He's a little bit thick as well, isn't he? Bless him.
He's more than a little bit thick. I mean, if he was a wall, he'd be 10 foot thick.
Oh God,
brick.
Yeah.
He is absolutely brain dead in terms of some of the stuff that he comes out with. But obviously, Eleanor doesn't realise that when she's confronted with, this is, some of the, because they have these screens that they can pull up, and they can look at videos of their past life, and she's shown part of her past life of when she was doing some sort of fundraising or charity work in some African country, and later on it transpires that wasn't her memories, which is part of the thing of she's actually got there, and she was a bit of a scumbag. She
bitch, I think. Come to mind.
Complete bitch. she wants to swear all of the time, but she can't because there is a swear filter on in A Good Place. So instead of saying the F word, she'd say "what the fork" or "shirt in hell" or whatever, rather than the actual swear words that you would expect her to be saying.
I think the best one was "motherfucking hell." I think that was class.
Yes, that was quite funny. So there's all of this, and in one episode, the swear filter gets turned off. And then she says she couldn't remember, she forgot how much she enjoyed cursing. But obviously this is kind of how the story goes. So the story is about her trying to become a better person to deserve her place in The Good Place. And this is where Chidi, who's a moral ethics professor, starts to help her to become less selfish. So because in a previous life when she was on Earth, she's basically sold fake medicine to old people, which was basically chalk. She never took a turn on a night out for driving. But I do like what she said when she's talking to Chidi, and she says, "But I did get 5 years in a row as a top seller," as if that was an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a tremendously good show, and this is one. For me, it was actually quite a personal thing for me because when I found this show was the same week as my dad died.
Oh, was it really? You didn't tell me that.
No, I didn't. But it was the same week, and I started watching it, and I don't know why I started even watching it because when I saw it, I thought, do you know what? I don't think I want to watch something like that. Then I just watch it.
Did it help though? That's what I was.
I think it did.
Did it help you?
I think it did. And to be honest, my whole family is completely converted onto this show, right down to my son, who's 10. To be honest, it's pretty much family viewing. There's a couple of times I thought maybe he's a bit young for that, but to be honest, the joke went so far over his head that Jupiter was orbiting below it. But in terms of that, I actually think that might have helped him a little bit, because I think he thinks his granddad's in The Good Place, sort of thing.
Or is he?
Yeah, well, I think he thinks that Granddad's having that sort of fun, and let's hope that he is because we don't know what happens.
Yeah.
But
no.
So anyway, that's the basic synopsis of the show, and it's just about Eleanor Shellstrop, Chidi, Jianyu, and Tahani all working together to just get along basically. It later transpires I've said about Jianyu being a failed DJ or whatever, that comes along quite quickly, but although he's quite stupid, he does realise that if he doesn't say anything, then he can pretend to be a monk quite easily, and all he does is sort of like nod a lot or shake his head if he doesn't know the answer. But the whole comedy of it is so great. They've got absolutely fantastic chemistry right throughout the whole of the story. I mean, in the second episode called Flying, that one was quite funny because it starts off with there is a massive panic and all things are going wrong. There's shrimps flying in the air, there's garbage raining from the sky and whatever.
All because of Eleanor's antics.
Yeah, because it turns out that when Eleanor does or says something, it has a negative effect on The Good Place. So, for example, she says something about giraffes, so giraffes start running through. She's eating all of the shrimp from this buffet of the Welcome to the Good Place evening that they have on the first show. And then shrimp start attacking from the sky. So all these weird things start to happen. And then in Flying, Chidi, because Eleanor wants to fly so much, and she's saying, oh, look at all these nerds who are volunteering to clean up the Good Place. Chidi volunteers them both so that she has to do something selfless as part of her training to be a better person. And, obviously it doesn't really work out, but it is the starting point for her to start to go towards that better person kind of thing, isn't it, really? Because she does do some cleaning up towards the end of the show, but when she does it, she does it with a bit of an ulterior motive as well.
But I think what she didn't want to give away that it was her fault, and when everyone was wearing these sort of bumblebee coloured shirts and dresses,
yes,
but it was her was still in her pyjamas.
Yes, and so she asks another character called Janet, who Janet is a bit like your Siri or Cortana, or I'm not going to say the other word because I've got a machine in the room, but your Echo. But in a person sort of form and can produce anything that you like. So, you say, Janet, can I have, a McDonald's cheeseburger? And she'll come up with one straight away. And she has all knowledge in all of the universe. So that's this Janet woman's role, who later on, Jason, or Gianni, whichever name you want to call him, ends up marrying as well. That's another story in itself as well. So
I like that her browser is friendly to your own, because when Eleanor said about, does anyone else know my browser history? And she went, no, so what porn would you like to see?
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean that. Oh, can you give me a set of clothes, please? So he gives her the bumblebee clothes so she doesn't stand out in the crowd as if it's her fault.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the story just keeps on progressing each time right throughout season 1. It is about Michael getting closer and closer to discovering that Eleanor is actually someone who shouldn't be there, until he does discover that she shouldn't be there, because what happens is that Chidi ends up accidentally killing, when I say killing I mean resetting, Janet, and that's when Eleanor owns up, yes, it is me, I shouldn't be here. And then Michael has to contact the bad place, and then the real Eleanor Shellstrop gets brought up from the bad place, with taking the fake Eleanor, as they call the Eleanor that we've watched all along, back to the bad place. Do you want to take over for a bit and do a bit of explaining, Steve?
Yes, so what's happening now is that with this quandary of having the good person and the bad person in the same place, someone has to go to the bad place. And Eleanor, as we know her, doesn't want to go there. So she's left with this conundrum that someone has got to go to the bad place. And as they progress, they keep discussing this throughout the episode. And from this point, she has, is it an epiphany? Is that the correct word to use?
Yes, I think epiphany is the right word to use.
And she realises that this is all a bit of a stage. And then she suddenly, then we don't see it physically happen, but there's a light bulb that pops above her head.
Yes, you see her expression change, definitely.
Oh, it does. And she says, "No, I'm not going to go."
She actually says, "Holy forking shirt balls."
yeah. I wasn't going to say that, but yeah.
Because the swear filter's still on rather.
And the biggest spoiler of all for this TV show is that you are in the bad place. You're not in the good place. And how cool was that? I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming.
I didn't see it coming at all. I thought it was such an absolutely brilliant twist. And do you know what I thought was the best part of that as well? What made that whole scene? And it was Ted Danson. And it was where he's looking and he just has this, placid sort of view.
He's not the nice guy look
The nice guy look he gives. And then he just suddenly does this evil laugh and his face changes. And it's just that whole bit where, he just suddenly changes from being nice Michael to the bad place Michael. And it was just, all credit to him in terms of that. It was a brilliant, bit of acting, because he didn't do much. It was just literally a laugh and a face change. But it was just how his character just subtly changed and was suddenly just got a lot meaner. I just thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that this is the bad place, and the second part of the spoiler, and for me, which was also tagged on the end, that the four main characters are in the bad place, and everyone else is in on it, because they're all bad, and they're there to make this reality happen, to thinking that they're in the good place.
Yes, so there's like 300 people in the community, isn't there? And they're all demons.
Acting.
Yeah, they're all demons. Even the fake real Eleanor, as in the new Eleanor that they brought in at that point, she was in on it as well. And she was there deliberately to, throw a spanner in the works for them all. So this is how the whole of the story goes. And then after that, what happens is the bad place, or the good bad place, gets reset. Do you want to continue, Steve?
Yeah, so with this reset, Ted Danson, Michael, he doesn't want anyone to know about it, because he's been an apprentice.
Well, no, the first one they do know about, don't they?
Yeah, but he didn't. It gets all sussed, and then this guy Sean, I don't know why he's called Sean,
Well, they all have like earthly human names, don't they?
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Sean is like Michael's boss in The Bad Place.
Yeah, and he asks him to not get this wrong. You've got to get it to work. Otherwise, we'll forget this idea and we'll just scrap it and we'll go as we normally do.
Yeah, because I think we've missed out a bit, though. The idea is, behind Michael's good place idea is, rather than the demons torturing people, like ripping the skin off every day and stuff like that, the idea is to get people to torture each other. And
it's like a mental torture as well between themselves, and they don't even know they're
doing
it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, for example, it's like the only sort of dessert that you can get is frozen yogurt. In terms of the good, and there's all sorts of like little things that are all set up to just make it just that little bit, everything's just niggly, annoying that tends to build up.
Yeah, as much as originally when she first moved into her little dwelling,
yes,
which was this Icelandic looked like IKEA built it, didn't it?
It was,
do you know what I mean?
Like a very contemporary sort of apartment, very modern furniture in there.
Yeah, and putting clowns on the wall as pictures,
which she hates.
But then he was saying to her that you liked because this is what your character was idea was, and then to top it off, then to give her this tiny little dwelling where Tahani had this mansion which had like 1,000 rooms in it.
Yeah, and
so that probably
to each other as well.
Yeah, exactly, and you could tell all these fountains and the water's going, and you've got all this gold-looking framework and everything, and it was a palace compared to her place.
Yeah, exactly.
But to be honest, I preferred her place. That was more my liking.
I have to admit, I quite liked her place as well. But I'll tell you what I did like as well: the fact that for half of the season she was climbing up onto that stage to go onto her bed, and then the fake real Eleanor came and pressed a button and the steps appeared.
Yeah,
that was just another example of the daft little bits of torture that they were putting in to just make everything just that little bit unbearable, so it constantly niggled.
Absolutely.
Anyway, carry on, Steve.
So at this point now, what they're trying to do is they reset everyone's heads. They don't know each other again. It's like watching the show from episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
But as what keeps happening is Eleanor keeps sussing it out, and it's quicker and quicker and quicker. And in the same time that they're trying to get the bad people are trying to put their performance over to make it into a good place, she keeps sussing it out and keeps sussing it out.
Yeah, and they go through loads of scenarios, don't they?
And every time they keep trying to reset Janet, who I thought was class, because when you reset Janet on the beach, she will beg for her mercy.
Yes, every time.
And that was hilarious. That was really fun. She was a great actress in that. I loved it.
Yeah, she is a good actress, definitely.
So, and then at one point, what they decided to do was there's a train station that would normally take you to the bad place. So they they got on a train with Janet's idea and found this woman in the middle of nowhere.
In the medium place.
In the medium place. And she was on her Todd, chilling out, naked, I think, if I remember
Yeah,
rightly.
she was.
And they stayed there for a while, and not knowing it, that actually all these resets were happening, that they kept going there.
Yes.
And she didn't forget, did she?
No, because she wasn't
really
getting
weird.
reset. It was only the good place that was getting reset.
Yeah, yeah. And she was moaning that she kept asking to bring cocaine on one of the trips.
Yes.
And she wouldn't do it, or she wouldn't remember to do it.
Yeah, and then she filmed them doing stuff in one of the bedrooms. And it was on a Cannonball 1 DVD.
That was
videotape.
Videotape, yeah. And so she was watching a movie of herself with Chidi in bed, realising that she's actually fallen in love with him.
Yeah.
But kept forgetting, and then kept saying that. So this was like a Groundhog Day scenario, I thought.
Yeah, very much. Very much so.
And the funny thing is, my missus was watching this, as I was saying. She loved the show. She hates Groundhog Day because she says it's always doing the same thing. But I sat there watching this show and I'm thinking, you're not even coming up with that scenario about this. For some reason, she didn't twig that it was that idea at that point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was clever. And then obviously the next thing that happens from here is the cast in the good place / bad place started to have a revolt against Michael.
Yes, because they got sick of having all these constant resets.
Yeah.
And so Vicky, who was the fake real Eleanor.
I hope they're tagging along with this because it can be confusing.
Yeah. the woman who played the Eleanor from The Bad Place that was supposed to come and replace the Eleanor that the show's about, she's actually a demon called Vicky, and she leads the revolt against Michael, who then that means that Michael then goes to the 4 main cast, Eleanor, Chidi and everyone else, and joins forces with them in order to be able to, escape the wrath of Sean, which would mean that Michael would be torn apart and left on 1,000 blazing suns.
Oh, we got to quickly mention though that there is an evil Janet.
There is an evil Janet. Evil Janet's brilliant. Because the Janet that on the show is all nice as like, hi, I'm Janet. And then the evil Janet is the complete opposite. She's got a mobile phone that she's constantly using, even though
talking with sort of a slang. She's got blonde hair. She looks completely different, actually. Yeah. I mean, they've done well with her.
She wears black leather or something equivalent, and is just basically insults everybody all of the time. So evil Janet is actually such a divergence from the other Janet, who is very prim and proper in the way that she's dressed and stands very straight and whatever. It is really. It shows that she's a good actress because it's played by the same person as well.
So we now got a point in the TV show where Sean is given an ultimatum and somebody has got to go to the bad place. But all 4 of them now are in line for that point, and nobody wants to go, do they? So the next best thing to do is on Michael's thought, because he's now siding with the guys and he's against his boss, is to go to see a woman in the bad place.
No, she's not in the bad place. She's the judge.
Is it? Yeah, she's a judge, but it is in the bad place.
No, it's access through the bad place. She's in her own place.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So she's going through the bad place to get to her, to see if they can, I suppose, beg for her forgiveness, to see if they can stay in.
Well, I think it's more proof that they've actually earned the right to be in a good place because of everything they've learned. Because right throughout all of this time, Chidi has been giving him ethics lessons. Yeah,
and I think we haven't mentioned about Chidi, but he has one problem.
He can't make his mind up to save his life.
No, and we see this because when they do go back into their real lives sometimes, just to show what they're like, and he couldn't decide on whether he should eat salt and vinegar crisps, for example, to cheese and onion crisps. He couldn't make up that decision, and right through his childhood, even picking a team for the football at break in recess at school
took him the whole break.
Yeah, and they all despised him for that because he can't choose.
No,
I thought actually we should mention actually obviously before we go into the trip to get to the judge.
Yeah,
that Tahani and Jason do start to have feelings for each other, don't they?
Yes.
Even though he went to marry Janet, and Janet had to be reset.
So Janet forgets that she was married to Jason.
Yeah, but on the tail end of that, after chatting to Eleanor, what do you do when you fall out of love with someone? You go on the rebound, don't you?
Yes, and she makes Derek. Derek!
He's a complete idiot. I think I'm going to say a polite word.
Yes,
here.
And instead of, he has wind chimes where men don't.
Yeah. We have something that wiggles, and he has something that goes bing.
Yes.
So we have Janet now having this dilemma and going through this relationship with Derek, which does come to an end eventually. But she still somehow loves Jason for some reason.
Yes, but she starts to remember because Janet supposedly every time the reset gets smarter, and by this point she's been reset over 800 times.
And it's such a great. It was really how they've now progressed on this story. What they could have done is they could have kept it like the first couple of episodes, and they could have just done that all the time. It would have got boring.
Yeah, but they haven't. They keep changing it up, and I think what we should not do is actually spoil the last episodes. So let's just say that they get to the judge, and let's stop it there, because we might have given people enough to say, actually, although I know half of the story for the first 1.5 seasons, I want to see the rest of it. And we haven't told you all of the stories because there's a lot more adventures happening in this as well. We've just picked out like the main thread. But it is such a well worth show to watch. I haven't enjoyed a show as much as this, in a comedy for a very long time. I think
No, I can't think of a comedy show that I actually watch at the moment that's new.
Yeah.
And I mean, the cast list in this is huge. Excuse me. There was one person actually that stood out to me. Obviously, on the tail end of knowing now that this is the Bad Place, and obviously there was one member of the group. So obviously, when they die, they have this video in the garden area, something by the shops,
Yes.
and they watch Ted Danson explain how you got here, from your positives on your negatives, obviously weighing out the negatives as the bad to the good, and that's why you're here, because you're the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And in the audience for this was this sort of slightly sort of a Chinese ilk girl from her sort of race, and she was in the Guild. Did you remember that show?
Yes. Yeah, because she was the one on the flying one where she flew straight into a carcass of a chicken.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. And actually, I'm not going to click on it now, but I got a funny feeling the real Eleanor, the good Eleanor, should we say? She was in The Big Bang Theory.
Darcy Carden, you mean?
Yeah, didn't she play Leonard Hofstadter's girlfriend, who was related to another member of the cast? Or am I completely wrong in that?
No, she was.
If you click on her, because that's it. She's classed as the real Eleanor, and if I go to what she's done, I've got a funny feeling.
Well, she was. Yeah. The real Eleanor
she was in Star
Wars.
Yeah, she was in Star Wars as well. She had voiceovers, believe it or not. But yeah, no. I mean, they've all got some of the characters. Even say Kristen Bell, who I don't think I'd seen anything until now. Obviously, we did discuss this off air quite a while ago. That she was in Baywatch.
Yeah. And
somehow looks a bit of a bigger girl for some reason.
Yeah, I think that's to do with a scalpel somehow.
Possibly.
It's either that or else it's the most marvellous push-up bra ever.
Yeah, but what one of her biggest projects that she did, she was in the voiceover for as Anna in Frozen, one of the biggest movies of all time. I think in the top 10,
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I mean, I'd love to just keep going on about what happens next in the story. And you're right, really, that if anyone here is listening to this that just wanted to hear this just because they wanted to hear our voices, for whatever reason that would be, I do not know.
No, neither do I. But maybe we should talk more like Barry White.
Yeah, that's it. It would be, really good. It is. I mean, I can't wait for September now.
No, it's a long way.
It's a long way, and on the back of how the show finished.
Oh, that the ending of it was absolutely brilliant, and it just makes you want to watch it all the more.
Well, actually, I started watching it again now, knowing the backstory and the spoiler.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it in a different light because I'm looking to see where they're going and how people are acting in it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I have to admit, when I was watching it, there were some times when I was watching Ted Danson, before you actually got the big reveal, and I thought, why is he reacting in that way? And did you notice that with some of Ted Danson's acting, and that sometimes when he looked, it's like a look, or, in his body movements or something like that, as if, it was there when you know to look for it. But if you don't know to look for it, you just think he's just being normal. But sometimes when you look, you thought, yeah, you were doing something more creepy then, weren't you?
Because we know in his head he was deliberately doing this.
Yes.
To give them grief.
Yeah, because he was the architect behind The Good Place in order to make people miserable. It's mental torture he was going for.
Mm. And so that's what makes this TV show, I think, the way that works.
Yeah. So, because as you were saying before about the scoring, if you do a selfless act with no reward, you get a positive score. If you do something negative, you get a negative score. So, for example, if you jump in the line of a queue, you'll lose 5 points. But if you say to someone, "Oh, do you want to go ahead of me? I haven't decided yet," you gain 5 points. So I think that's how you get into the Good Place, and it's what your overall score was.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was minus 4,006.
as much as she was trying to beat that up, move it, wasn't she? She was trying to. It's like I think it's like trying to have an achievement system, wasn't it, on your Xbox?
It is. It kind of like reminded me of like a day-to-day version of Laser Quest, where if you got hit, you lost points, and if you hit someone, you know. But, no, it's a fantastic concept, to be honest. That every good thing that you do in your life is offset by when you say a word like staycation. So, watch the show, you'll get that, Joe.
I think I'd like to think that this show's got a few seasons in it.
Yeah.
But the scripts have got to be good, because I wouldn't want them to bleed it too much.
No. I think at the moment they're still keeping it really fresh and original. I must admit, though, when you actually go back through some of the resets, I would love to know the logic of how they got into some of the places. So, like, for example, a picture that represents the good place. One of the resets is where Eleanor is walking through a field of cacti holding a load of balloons, and she goes, "Oh, this is the bad place," and that's the end. That's one of the endings. And there's another one where she's in the foreground and Chidi's in the background, and he suddenly says, "Bees, bees, bees," and he runs off the screen, and he runs back with all these bees chasing him. And Eleanor says, "Oh, this is a bad place." And you just see this little montage of all of these when, at one point in one of the shows. And they are so funny.
Yeah.
Especially when Jason gets it. "Oh, that's a low point. This one really hurts."
Actually, what we didn't mention about Jason had his own room, didn't he? We had like a man cave.
Yes, his bud hole.
And in there he had the big TV with all the consoles and all his DJ equipment, and there he could talk to himself and be human again when he was in his early time as a Buddhist monk. That was just
that was quite funny, because it was such a contrast in his actual character. It was brilliant. It was.
I mean, him trying to, even when Michael was thinking it was his fault, and how he was playing this because he was bad. When he was saying, "Oh, well, I can't believe that this is all going wrong," and then Michael is getting depressed, so Jason gets his hand, just puts it on his heart, and looks at him, and he gets it.
Yeah.
Do you know? And it's whether or not he's playing along with him on that, or actually do you know what I mean? Because we now know what they're doing. I'm having second guesses on why they're doing what they're doing.
I have to say he was playing along.
Yeah.
I think he was just accepting it as part of his persona for that. But it's just the show takes you in places where you just do not expect to go, and the comedy is really good, the acting is really good quality as well. The scripts are perfect. I mean, when they have the sinkhole incident in the Good Place, and Eleanor is there and saying, Michael brings this couple round to their house and says, can they stop with Eleanor and Chidi for some time? It might be an hour, it might be a month, sometime in between. And she's turning around, and it turns out, because obviously they're fighting all of the time, because she's a bit of a bitch and he can't make his mind up for anything. And this couple who come in introduce themselves as, "Well, I literally wrote the book on good relationships, and I can't wait to see your relationships, because you're always there talking in corners, always together, and you must have such a good relationship." So which then puts pressure on them. And then the husband turns around and says, "Yeah, and I used to be into detecting identity fraud and all of this, that and the other. And I invented this software to identify when people were lying and whatever." And that puts pressure on them. And then Eleanor's thing, and they're having this debate, this argument between them, is Eleanor turns around and says to Chidi, "Let's just sleep with them, and then we'll that'll divert their attention. I bet they've come over here because they want to swing." And then Chidi's going, "I'm not going to do that." And Eleanor's saying, "Whoa, we're really different." But then later on, it shows you when they're going back over about that same incident, but when Michael was at the door with them, and they were listening to them arguing, and this couple were there because they're demons as well, and she says, "Hey, why don't we try swinging with them?" So there's all of these really cool bits in it where they do revisit previous parts of the story and show a different perspective on things. Like, for example, at the beginning where Jianyu gives Eleanor something when she thinks he's a monk, and
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
it's this like cog, and she thinks it's like something like some sort of really spiritual message. This is before she knows that he's Jason, and then later on it shows you that story of how that happened, and it was because Jason was trying to get away from his second soulmate, and he took the cog off a bike. And then she caught him and he handed it to her.
And she was looking at Ellen was looking at that cog as if it was something spiritual.
Yeah, and it was actually no, he was just handing over the evidence before he legged it.
Yeah. And it was quite good that obviously Chidi, with his background from being a professor, he even got Michael in on some studying, didn't he?
He did, yeah. So part of when he joined forces with Michael had to learn human ethics, and all I can say is the tram scenario where you can kill 5 people or one. Wasn't
that funny?
I don't think we should say anything about that episode other than that it happens, because that is just one you've got to enjoy. And remember, it is the bad place, really. So that, but it's just, that episode was just absolutely so funny. Absolutely creased myself up with laughter on that. It was hilarious.
No, really good. Any more thoughts?
I just hope that they just keep the momentum going. I mean, by the last episode of season 2, that it shows no sign of slowing down. But I think it's one of them.
There are questions which we can't even talk about now.
No.
As much as this is a spoiler show.
No, we can't. But I do hope that they keep the originality of it, because I think you're absolutely right. This show lives and dies by its level of originality. And
the writing more so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the quality of the writing is absolutely brilliant. And it's, the jokes are absolutely perfectly timed and everything. And I think if they stayed the same for too long, you would just drift away from it. But they don't. They keep it going, and they keep refreshing everything that you think they keep turning it on its ear. And that's what I think is really good about this show, because by the time you get to the end of one season, it's completely different to when you first started. Although there is now an overarching story arc.
Did we actually say this was on Netflix only? Did we mention that? I can't think we did.
I don't think we did, but it is only on Netflix, and to be honest, it's well worth just subscribing for a month and just binge watching it over a few days.
Absolutely.
I would recommend it to anybody if you're interested in if you like comedies. You should like this.
I think it'd be nice to hear if any of you guys that haven't watched it do now jump in. Give us your thoughts on Facebook. It'd be nice to see what you think about it.
Or Twitter if you're not on Facebook as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that as well. Because it would be nice if we could have It would be nice if we can cut in some parts of the TV show, but due to licenses, we obviously can't do that. But there's some great little bits and pieces there that you just laugh at. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy that I found it as a show, and what's actually even better, I think, as far as I'm concerned, is that I've shared this through the podcast, and other people have come back and said how much that they've enjoyed it, and that's basically why we're here, isn't it? Really, is to
absolutely
direct people's attention to stuff that they might have otherwise have missed, and I think that this is quite an easy show to miss because of it just being exclusively on Netflix at the moment. But who knows? It might come onto TV, and it should do. I would think. I'm surprised that Sky haven't snapped this up, to be honest.
Do you think, is this still an NBC show though, isn't it? I'm not too sure.
I don't know. I don't know how it's available in America, but in this country, UK, it's on Netflix.
It's on the Wikipedia for it. It's got NBC programming as a link, so I'm wondering whether that's where how it came into place.
Yeah, it might be. So if you're a stateside listener, and we do have those, then please let us know what is this on over in the States.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And just one more thing about Ted Danson is that it's reminded me, because I haven't watched him in something for a long time.
Yeah.
Just what a good actor he is.
He is. Like I said, some of where he changes from being good Michael to bad Michael, where they have the first revelation, top class. I mean, absolutely top class the way that he did it. It really, it made you think, whoa. This isn't what I thought it was going to be at all.
No. I mean, I think the term "my jaw hit the floor and my tongue rolled out."
Yeah.
scenario. It was just like that.
Yeah, it was. So, but like we said, this has been a spoiler podcast. So if you've got to this point and then now you're turning around and saying you've spoilt it all for me, we did say at the beginning.
But honestly, though, there is so much as we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, even if you have listened to this and not watched the show, I think you'll still enjoy it if you watch it, because it'll put everything that we've said into context. And I know that probably for a lot of people who haven't watched the show, you've listened to this and thought, don't get it.
Yeah. But even knowing that now it's a bad place, that might put a nice little spin on it for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I think, and that's why I've started watching it as a second run already. So.
Well, I mean, I've had no choice because I watched it first. Because I was actually watching this when I was stopping at Stokesay, and then my son sort of picked up on it and he started watching it with me, and now my wife started watching it, so I've actually on my third run of it.
Oh, okay.
And my son, because he just goes on to Netflix and starts playing it, I think he's watched it about 10 times.
Oh, bless him.
He absolutely loves it. So, yeah. Great show. One of the best comedies to come out in a very, very long time. Very long time. Can't praise the show enough. So, anyway, do we have anything else?
Don't think so. I think we've said enough that we can do at the moment.
Yep, indeed. So, in that case then, we'll come to the end of the show. We'll just do our normal outro. So, Steve, do you want to do your contact info?
Yeah, sure. That's my IDs for the console. So, Xbox is at Steve007. The PSN ID is the real Steve007. Twitter is at Steve007. And my email address, if you didn't know already, is at Steve007@hotmail.co.uk.
Yeah, and my contact details, you can look at my YouTube channel, which is Haydn Reese Jones. You can tweet me at HERJUK. You can also get hold of me on PSN, Xbox Live, Steam, and most other systems. On HERJUK, and email is herjuk@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook group which you can join by going to facebook.com/groups/popculturegamers. Any inquiries to either Steve or my email address. Our website is popculturegamers.podbean.com. There is no www at the beginning. We now also have a Pop Culture Gamers YouTube channel where we will be uploading the shows and we'll be adding more content in the future. Please go and subscribe, because once we get so many users, we can then actually get the name Pop Culture Gamers on the YouTube channel. And finally, if you want more options to listen to the show, you can do so on YouTube. You can also listen to the show on Pocket Cast, Beyond Pod, RSS Radio, Podcast Addict, Downcast, Podcast Republic, Overcast, Stitcher, Podkicker, and any pod on the Amazon Echo by saying that name that device has that we use for the personal assistant, and then say ask any pod to play Pop Culture Gamers, and it'll play the latest show.
I still think they should have Janet there now, though.
I do.
As one of the options.
And I'd say, hey, Janet. That would be good. Okay, well, in that case, thank you to Steve for joining me today.
Pleasure.
And other than that, it's good night from me.
And it's a good night from him.
Good night.
Good night.
You are about to witness history in the making.